The world government does not fear pirates who want treasure. It fears the ones who want nothing from the system at all. Luffy never declared war on a throne, a flag, or a philosophy. He declared war on the idea that anyone gets to decide what another person is allowed to be. That is not a pirate's creed. That is something older and more dangerous. Most fans see Luffy as a simple character running on hunger and instinct. They see the smile, the rubber body, the obsession with meat and adventure. And they stop there, because the surface is so loud, it drowns the depth underneath. But the world government didn't mobilize Buster Calls and warlords against a boy who just wanted treasure. They mobilized everything, because his very existence contradicts the architecture of their world. The world nobles sit at the top of a hierarchy built on one foundational rule. That rule is this: some people are born to own everything, and some are born to belong to others. Every institution in One Piece flows downward from that single assumption. The Marines enforce it, the warlord system launders it, the reverie polishes it, and Luffy walks through all of it like none of it applies to him, because to him, it genuinely doesn't. He doesn't argue with the system, he doesn't debate it, he simply refuses to see it. That refusal is not ignorance. It is a complete rejection of the premise. When he punched St. Charlos in the face at Sabaody Archipelago, fans called it an emotional reaction. It was, but look at what the emotion was responding to. A man treating a human being as property. Luffy's body moved before his mind caught up, because somewhere in him there is no processing time for that. His freedom instinct doesn't negotiate. It doesn't file a complaint through proper channels. It moves immediately, because his sense of what a person is does not include the category of owned. Now think about what that means inside a world with 800 years of that hierarchy baked into the law. Garp understood it. That's why he never fully stopped him, even when he could have. Dragon understood it before Luffy could even articulate it himself. Whitebeard understood it when he called Luffy the most dangerous person he had ever seen. Not dangerous because of haki or devil fruit potential. Dangerous because of what he walks around believing. The Yonko system, the world government, the Marines, they all operate on one hidden contract. That contract says, we will allow pirates to exist in certain zones, under certain pressures, within certain limits. Shanks plays that game. Kaido plays it. Big Mom plays it with territories and marriages and fear. Even Blackbeard plays it, just with the intention of rewriting the rules from the inside. Luffy does not play it at all. He has never once strategized about how to survive inside the power structure. He broke into Impel Down. He broke into Marineford. He broke into Onigashima. Not because he calculated the odds and found them acceptable, because someone he loved was on the other side. That motivation sounds emotional, even childlike. But watch what it actually does to the system. Every fortress in One Piece was designed to stop people who understand the cost of attacking it. Luffy doesn't process the cost the same way. He processes the reason. And when the reason is strong enough, the cost simply does not register as a stopping point. This is what Imu, the Gorosei, and the entire upper tier of the world government finds unmanageable. You cannot negotiate with someone who isn't trying to replace you. You cannot bribe someone who doesn't want your position. You cannot intimidate someone who has already decided that the worst outcome is acceptable if it means the people he loves are free. Classical power structures. Every single one in any world run on leverage. You apply pressure to what a person values, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. Luffy has things he values deeply. His crew, his friends, Ace, his dream, but the structure of what he values is immune to institutional leverage, and here is why. He does not value safety. He does not value status. He does not value being owed anything by the world. He values the act of choosing, and you cannot take the act of choosing away from someone who has already made their choice. Roger understood this. That's not a coincidence. That's a lineage of something the world hasn't found the right name for yet. When Rayleigh told him the truth about the Void Century, Luffy said he didn't want to hear it yet. Most fans read that as immaturity. It is the opposite. It is a man who understands that the reason to become king of the pirates cannot be borrowed from history. It has to come from inside himself, fully, without contamination from someone else's interpretation of the world. That is not a child's answer. That is a philosopher's answer wearing a straw hat. The Void Century was erased because someone wrote something down that the world government couldn't afford to survive. Not a weapon, not a map to a treasure. An idea about what people are entitled to be. The poneglyphs don't scare the Gorosei because they contain power. They scare them because they contain memory, and memory is the one thing hierarchy cannot fully control. Luffy cannot read poneglyphs. He doesn't need to. He is already living the answer the world government spent 800 years trying to bury. Now consider Joy Boy, the name that keeps appearing at every fault line in this world's history. Joy Boy made a promise he couldn't keep, not because he was weak, because the world wasn't ready yet. Odin cried when he read what was written. Not from grief alone, but from the weight of what was still unfinished. And when Zunesha felt Luffy's heartbeat shift on Onigashima, it announced his return like a drum, not his power returning, his nature returning. Something older than the pirate era reasserting itself. That detail is not decorative. It tells you that what Luffy carries is not personal ambition. It is an inherited refusal, across centuries, to accept that freedom is something the powerful distribute on their terms. Most fans treat the Joy Boy connection as a hype moment, a power-up label, a peak battle reveal. But the real weight of it is philosophical. Joy Boy was a promise. Luffy is the follow-through, and the follow-through isn't a stronger punch. It is a world where the promise finally lands. Think about what Laugh Tale actually represents inside this world's logic. Every great pirate in history aimed for it. Roger reached it. And he laughed. Not because the treasure was disappointing, because he finally understood the full shape of what had been left unfinished. He was born too early to finish it himself, so he left the world a reason to produce someone who could. Luffy's dream is to be king of the pirates. But watch how he defines that dream when pressed. He doesn't want power over other pirates. He doesn't want tribute or territory or recognition from thrones. He wants to be the freest person on the ocean. That is his exact definition. Freedom, not dominance. In any other pirate era, that reads as a personal goal. Inside One Piece's actual world structure, it is a political earthquake, because the world government's entire legitimacy rests on the idea that freedom is a privilege, not a default state. That some people earn the right to move freely, and others were born into categories that limit them. Slaves at the Celestial Dragons, child soldiers at the Marines, people born into debt on islands they cannot leave. Luffy doesn't walk past these things. He walks through them, every time, without a plan, without a system. And somehow, the walking through part is exactly what the walking through required. Nami's village, Robin's history, Frankie's past, Fishman Island, Dressrosa, Wano. Every arc is not just a location. It is a version of the same wound. Someone's freedom was taken. Someone powerful decided it was theirs to take. And Luffy arrives, not with a liberation ideology, not with a political manifesto, but with the simple inability to walk away. That inability is his power system. Not Gear 5th, not Conqueror's Haki alone. The power system is, he cannot be made to stop caring, and he cannot be made to accept a reason why someone should not be free. Try to find the lever. The world government tried. Teach tried. Kaido tried with Wano's chains and Onigashima's ultimatum. You cannot leverage someone into surrendering a freedom instinct that does not recognize the logic of surrender. Now here is what most fans completely miss when they argue about Luffy's strength ceiling. His growth doesn't follow the standard shonen arc of training harder, unlocking new forms, surpassing old limits. His growth follows the arc of his conviction becoming impossible to contain inside a smaller body. Gear 5th didn't arrive because he trained for it. It arrived because the moment demanded the full expression of what he actually is. The Nika fruit was suppressed for 800 years because the world government understood what it represented. A power that operates on the logic of freedom itself, that bends reality according to the user's will to stay uncontained. That is not a metaphor layered onto a fight scene. That is the world telling you what Luffy's existence means at its core. And here is the final thing that makes his idea of freedom more radical than any fan usually stops to examine. He doesn't want everyone to follow him. He doesn't want to lead a revolution. He is not building a movement. He explicitly tells his crew, "Don't follow me, follow your own dream." Every Straw Hat is sailing towards something entirely their own. Luffy's flag covers them, but their destinations are not his. That is not a captain's speech. That is a man who has genuinely internalized that freedom means other people's freedom too. A tyrant can claim to want freedom. Every dictator in history claimed to want freedom for the right people. But Luffy's version has no fine print. No worthy and unworthy. No category of person that the freedom doesn't apply to. That is what makes it radical. Not the punching, not the rubber, not even the awakening. The radical part is the completeness of it. No exceptions. No hierarchy hiding underneath a different name. And in a world 800 years deep, in systems built on exactly that hierarchy, a person without exceptions is the most dangerous thing alive. The world government was right to be afraid. They just didn't understand early enough what they were actually afraid of. It was never the pirate. It was the premise he carried without even knowing he was carrying it.